Hello, I am here to make a quick video to expand on staying in ketosis even after you're done fasting or when you're not in a fasted state, because this is something that can be very beneficial for you if it feels right. And it can be something that can be done without having to just fast. You can do it longer term, day to day. This is essentially the basis of the ketogenic diet. You may or may not be familiar with it, and I'm sure you've seen keto everywhere at your grocery stores, bakeries, things like that. Uh, it's keto, 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 and there's not a lot of information that people really get of what it means to be in this state. And so I'm going to take a couple minutes and explain that to you here. First, I want to share that 5 years ago now, which is crazy to believe, actually 6 years ago now, I was at a point in my life where I was like really down. It was one of the darker moments of my life. And physically, I felt awful and I wasn't fitting into my clothes. And every day it felt like I was getting bigger. And it was almost 2 years after at the time, my youngest had been born. And I remember coming home and day after day, I was putting on Drew's clothes to just get comfortable. And then I weighed myself this particular evening, and I weighed the same amount as I had the day I gave birth 2 years prior. And that day was the day that I made a decision to change. And what I did in that time was I decided to diet just the way I always knew how to diet, right? Portion control and eat steamed vegetables with no seasonings and like baked chicken breast, right? Or boiled chicken breast. And so I ate this way and I was miserable over the first 2 weeks or so, maybe 3 weeks. And at the time, I was also drinking tons of coffee, and I was still getting dragged out of bed by my kids. Like it was 7:30 in the morning, they're dragging me out of bed, and by 8 o'clock, after 4, 5, 6 cups of coffee during the day, I was still exhausted and needing to go to sleep. And I just knew something was wrong. And I knew that I needed to diet this way because something just told me stop eating the burritos and the pasta and the tacos and the nachos and the breads and just all of that. I took that out. So I went through this phase for like 2 or 3 weeks. And even though I was miserable, I just kept sticking with it. And all of a sudden, one morning, I woke up at like 4 in the morning, like ding, wide awake, bright eyed. This fog had lifted. I had never even knew about brain fog. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I feel so good. And from that moment on, I was in ketosis, and it was like, and I didn't know what that was at the time, right? But that is what happened to me. And my brain fog cleared. And all of a sudden, I just felt really, really great. And I could go from like 4 in the morning until like 10, 11 at night and have no coffee, need nothing, not be exhausted, and just put myself back to sleep and do it again. And so that's when I realized that the food that we consume is directly correlated with our brain. And so I started doing a lot of research on the neurological components of food and what the connection is. And it was really hard at the time to find any information on this. And I did come across this book, and it was called The Ketogenic Brain. And it was awesome because it explained exactly what I was going through and what I was feeling, and it taught me how to eat, so that I wasn't in this deprivation. Because a lot of people cut the carbs and they cut their portion sizes, and they're feeling deprived, and that can be a really terrible experience. And a lot of times you'll just give up, right? And so what I found out was that our brain works the best on fat. So when our bodies are running off fat, it's in the best possible state. And so in order to do that, you can either be in essentially a very fasted state, which I was at the time, clearly, because I was consuming such a small amount of food and small amount of carbs. I wasn't consuming any. Or you can eat a diet that is predominantly filled with fat. And this was so counterintuitive This was so counterintuitive. And I realized, hey, I can make food, I can make dishes, I can make recipes that are very fat, very flavorful, very rich. They just cannot include pasta. They cannot include rice, regular rice. They cannot include um, potatoes or sugar, flour. All that stuff's got to go. But they can include vegetables, they can include meat, and they can include heavy cream sauce. And so we just started experimenting with this at home, and we started recognizing that we could have delicious food and lose weight. We could have delicious food and have clear heads and be able to function better. And just the overall everything felt lighter. It instantly felt lighter. And for me personally, that was when the transformation happened, so that it wasn't just about losing weight. It was about eating in a way that served my body. And I joke with people, and I've still continued to clean up my eating because there's still better choices in each category, right? But I joke with people like it's incredible that I lost 40 pounds eating eggs and bacon, like lots of it. And so the ketogenic diet is filled up with 3 macros. They're called macros. I don't know how much information you know about this or not. This was all brand new to me at the time. All our food is broken down into 3 macronutrients: protein, carbohydrate, and fat. And the typical American diet is going to be high carbohydrate and high protein and then low fat. That's the suggested. There's some people that choose high protein, medium carb, and low fat. There's all kinds of different combinations, but all food is made up of these 3 ingredients or these 3 nutrients. And so in the ketogenic diet, most people think of it as a low carb diet. It's not necessarily a low carb diet. That is true, but the main purpose or the main component of the keto diet is that it's high fat. So in a high fat diet, you're looking at 75 to 80% of your food consumption to be fat. So we cook with a lot of oils, we use a lot of butter, we use heavy cream, we use full fat everything. Anything that's full fat, we use all of that. So we skip out on the light sour cream, the light cream cheese, the light anything. It's all with the heavy fat stuff, high fat. So our meals are broken down into 75 to 80% fat, 15 to 20% of protein, and 5 to 10% of carbohydrate. And the carbohydrate are vegetables. There's a few fruits in there, but it's vegetables. It's not any of the white carbs, like no flour tortillas, no rice, no whatever. None of that is in it. But it's replaced with butter, and it's replaced with cheese, and it's replaced with cream. And of course, there are ways to do it without dairy. There are ways to do it more vegetarian type also. They just require you to become a little bit more creative. But when you do it that way, when you eat that way, and you have the right amount of fat, then your body stays in ketosis ongoing. And that's when massive results can happen. You can have a lot of weight loss, brain clarity, disease control, disease elimination. There are a lot of benefits of eating a particular way. Of course, I don't want to say of course, because not everybody would say that, but I am a person that believes that everybody should be intentional with their eating. And it's okay to choose to not be intentional. You can say, I don't care. And that in itself is a decision and a choice. So I'm not saying this is the diet for everybody or this is the way everybody should eat. I think everybody should try out whatever it is that feels good to them and see what works best. And for me, this has been the ticket that has worked really well over the past 6 years. And I continue to refine and get better all the time. So if you have more questions or you want more details, just let me know. I'm an open book.